Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the BpFit podcast, where we believe that having a community rooted in wellness can help you achieve your wildest dreams, whether that be in health, fitness, or career. So today our guest is Devin, and he is one of our awesome trainers here at Bigger Picture Fitness. He has been with us for a little bit over a year, or just
now.
about a year.
Yeah,
okay. And how has that been for you so far? And where were you training before?
Yeah, I mean it's been great so far. I started off I was training in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
I trained at a few it was public gyms, but they didn't have trainers because it was a small town. So I was the only trainer in my town besides one other girl.
Yeah.
So it was cool because all the business came through us.
Yeah.
So it was really easy to find business.
Yeah.
I managed a gym for a little while.
Cool.
And then I met my wife, actually at the gym.
Awesome.
That's a separate fun story. But
cool,
then
yeah.
She hated the cold.
Okay.
So we moved out here.
Nice.
And I worked at LA Fitness for a little while. I was a little scared to kind of go out on my own in a place I didn't know anyone.
Yep.
But then after, I think a little bit over a year at LA Fitness, I was like, I'm done working for a corporate gym. And
Yep.
that's when I was doing the search, and I found you guys online. And then came here November of last year. So I've been here for a year.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I remember you reached out to us through email, and I think you were one of the first ones who kind of sought us out or found us, and I was very excited about that instead of us trying to contact a trainer first.
Yeah, that's kind of where you want to
cool.
be. You want people to come find you. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So what was, or was there a catalyst for you to get into health and fitness other than just being in a small town maybe?
Yeah. Well, when I first started getting into fitness, I was 8 years old.
Okay.
My grandfather had a barbell in his backyard that I just became obsessed with because it was just fun to lift. Yeah. Heavy weights, and I just started to see as I started to get stronger that I was stronger than everyone else.
Yeah.
And it was literally selfish reasons. I wanted to be stronger than everyone else.
Right.
And so ever since I was 8, I was into fitness. So whenever I got into high school, thinking about what I was going to do for the rest of my life, it kind of became apparent to me that someday I wanted to have a gym or do something with that. And at that point, I didn't really know what a trainer was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got to college and I started to research careers and stuff like that. I was people actually do this for a living.
Yeah.
People train people to work out.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of got me into it. Because when I first went to college, I was actually an athletic training major. So I was going to work with sports teams and deal with injuries and stuff like that. But then I was oh wait, I can actually work in a gym environment and actually teach people how to work out. And that seemed more of a logical step for me.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how I got into it.
Awesome.
And then even then it was still about making money.
Yeah.
But then over time, it, as I started to actually help people, and I went through some things myself, it kind of opened me up more to you know what, I actually really enjoy helping people, enjoy helping people get stronger and changing their lives. So I developed a passion for that.
Awesome. Yeah, and a lot of the times when you have something, or if anybody has something they're so passionate about, the money ends up following. When you stop focusing on the money, it ends up coming anyways, because you've fallen into what you're meant to do. So that means you're just naturally going to be doing everything that you can. Yeah. And the effort level is much higher.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's a cool story though. Was your grandfather in fitness or anything like that?
No.
What is his deal?
Yeah,
how did he just a random barbell?
So he was diabetic.
Okay.
And he was also a drinker and stuff like that. So his kidneys were starting to fail, and so he was on dialysis.
Okay.
He passed away 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
But he got it because he wanted to start exercising. Never exercised with it, but saw that I loved it.
Yeah.
He actually gave me that barbell. So my first barbell came from him.
So cool.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So one of the things that you lead with your coaching and a part of what you coach people on, if I understand correctly, is sometimes obstacle races. And having a strong, solid mindset is a big part of doing things like that, on top of general fitness. So what does a strong mindset mean to you?
Yeah, so a strong mindset, I think of it in terms of like getting stronger in general. Like the way we get stronger, the way we get faster, the way we build more endurance, is we progressively overload our bodies over time.
Okay.
You know, if I were to just put 400 pounds on someone's back or tell them to go run 10 miles and they have no experience with that, they would absolutely crumble.
Right.
But if you give them a little bits at a time,
Right.
then all of a sudden you start building like this endurance and this strength to be able to build towards something more.
Yeah.
And so a strong mindset is, to me, is just the ability to, over time, you're stressing your mind and your ability to be able to handle more, so that when stressful things happen in life, you don't crumble under it. And that kind of comes from a period in my life where I crumbled under pressure because I wasn't disciplining myself. I wasn't giving myself stressors each and every day to be able to handle more.
Right.
And I mentioned in the beginning that I like managed a gym for a period of time.
Yeah.
Well, during that time, I was dealing with a lot of things, a lot of insecurities from my past.
Yeah.
You know, I had someone in my life that I loved that would tell me I was worthless. You know, and so I was very young at the time, so for a young person, that really plays on your mind.
Early 20s, it's very impressionable.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was a kid. And so my whole life that kind of followed me. I didn't realize it.
Right.
So during a period of time, I was training and managing a gym, and I was horribly failing at managing that gym. And so that started to play on my mind, the things of my past, you know, and then and then I ended up going through depression, you know, and I still have that depression, and I think I always had it, but I was covering it up with other things.
Right.
And then, you know, with that mindset of, oh, I'm worthless and I'm failing at this job. Not necessarily the training was always something that was natural to me, but managing a gym, that's a different ballgame. And you know, from managing BpFit, it's like, you know, it's way different than training.
Yes, it's, it'll put you in imposter syndrome real quick.
Yes, 100%. And I actually ended up getting fired from that job. You know, the guy who owned the gym was like, hey, listen, you should just go back to training because you suck at managing. And, you know, me being like that person who wanted to like have my own gym someday, I was like, my life is over.
That crumbled. That was like, I can't do this thing that I want to do then.
So there was a lot on top of me all at once. And I look back now and I was like, that was something that I should have been able to handle. Like, things happen. People get fired from jobs all the time.
Right.
They just readjust, refocus. But for me, it was like the end of my life.
Right, the cascade of events.
Yeah. And so I started developing suicidal thoughts. I, you know, was even like experimenting with like different ways to commit suicide. So after like I got out of that, I had some great people, my wife being one of them, who helped me get out of that. I started to develop, like, I started to realize, oh, the reason I crumbled under something that shouldn't have crumbled me was because I wasn't disciplining myself in other areas of my life to help improve my mindset. And so that's what I want to help other people do, is help them develop a strong mindset. I can't give it to them, but help them develop it.
Of course.
So that whenever challenging things come in their life, you know, a loved one dies, they get fired from a job, you know, like everything comes crashing in around them, that they just don't crumble.
Right, that they have tools in their toolbox to deal with things.
100%.
Yeah, that's awesome. Going back to one of the things you were saying about how it was kind of cascading on you and all of the things that you've heard of someone telling you that you're worthless. I've learned that the brain doesn't like cognitive dissonance. So a lot of the times, if you ask the brain, what are all the ways that I'm worthless? It's going to find evidence.
Right.
But if you ask it, what are all the ways that I'm loved wholly?
Yeah.
It's going to find evidence of that. So it's important for people to know that, they're in control of kind of switching that flip and feeding that thought loop.
Yeah, that's so good. I like that.
Yeah.
And that's actually one way that I helped discipline myself was every morning I would get up and I would tell myself positive things. So instead of like feeding the worthless thoughts.
Right. Yep.
You know, like if someone thinks they're stupid, they don't go and listen to people calling them stupid all day.
Right.
They get up and say, wait, why am I smart?
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
so like exactly what you're saying.
Same thing.
Just feed that.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, things that seem horrible in the time that they're happening to you end up being your greatest teacher, your greatest lesson. So I don't know if you resonate with that. One of the things I had planned was to talk about biggest failure, because a lot of the times our biggest failure can actually be some of the best things that happen to us. So would you consider that kind of period of your life, that kind of switch for you?
Yeah, that was definitely a big switch. And I think like everyone goes
I'm not saying
through,
that's your biggest failure. I'm just saying category.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, categorically the same.
I think everyone goes through different periods of time where they have that big switch.
Yep.
And I think for me, like that was definitely a big switch for me because, you know, I looked at that time and I was like, well, that shouldn't have been, you know, a lot for me to handle, but in the time it was.
It was, yeah.
You know, and I think that was the biggest struggle I had in my life because obviously I was contemplating on just leaving this world.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it absolutely was the biggest switch.
So part of the work you do with people is probably also helping them before they have to get to a point like that too, right? Like how could I work with someone so they don't need to have a devastating event happen for them to hit ground zero and have to rebuild.
Right.
That's another thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so two types of people, someone who's at the bottom you can help, and someone who is wanting to be preventative as well.
And I see myself as someone who really helps people way before they get to the bottom, because I've tried to help people at the bottom.
Yeah.
And the problem is someone who's at the bottom, a lot of times they choose to stay there.
Yeah.
And I look at myself back at that time, and I chose to stay there at that bottom position.
Right.
So it is very challenging to help someone who's already at the bottom. And then at that point, they usually need someone who's going to give them more help. Someone like a professional counselor like we have here at LJ.
Yes, that's true.
Like if they're at that bottom position, they need more than a trainer.
Yeah. Yep.
But what I try to do is the people who, they're not there yet, but they're not challenging themselves.
Right.
I want to try to help them challenge themselves so that if they get to that point, they're not crumbling under that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the other things was, why is a strong mindset important? And I feel like we've gone over that to not be redundant. But if we want to break that down even more, I would say, in my opinion, or relating it to fitness, is like we all talk about having a strong mindset for fitness reasons, but really it's for everything else outside of fitness too.
Yes,
like you're
100%.
saying.
And sometimes even just making it to the gym is the challenge that someone needs.
Right, and that can help them start to build that.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure you've had clients that you've trained that, I mean, it was just a stressor to get to the gym every single day.
Yeah,
totally. You know, for us, like, we've done that our whole lives through sports and, you know, all that. So it's like, that's super easy for us.
Yeah.
So now we need to challenge ourselves with something else. But for someone, like, they just need to get to the gym.
Yes, one thing. One thing at a time, totally. What would you say is your biggest accomplishment?
I think marrying my wife.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How did you guys meet? What was that story?
Yeah, so we actually met at that gym. So she met me at my lowest point. And she had the wisdom at that point to be like, no, like, I don't want to date you because like I was, you know, I was an emotional wreck.
Right.
but she was a good friend during that time, which helped me like kind of get out of like that slump, because at that point I was pushing everyone away.
Yeah.
But she had the wisdom to see like, okay, this person needs a friend.
Someone, right.
And so, but she kind of like came into the gym that I was managing at the time, and she was working with children and families. And so she was looking for a place where families could go, and and kind of like spend time together,
right.
you know. But the gym that I was managing advertised itself as a community center.
Okay.
It was really just a gym,
yeah.
you know, that, you know, had the community center on it.
Right.
So, so she came to see what activities we offered, and I was like, well, it's a basketball court and weights, you know. She's like, this isn't really for me. But she also needed a job at the time, and so when I was offering her a membership, she mentioned that, well, you know, I need a job right now. So even though she was working with families, it was like a volunteer position at that point. And I was like, well, I'll hire you. Yeah. Because we also needed workers. So she actually worked for me for a little bit during that time.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we kind of got to talking, and that's how we became friends.
Right.
And because she's originally from California. She's not from Pennsylvania.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then after, she made me work for it for a long time before she went on a date with me. And then we dated for a while.
That's generally good,
Yeah, now we're married.
Nice, awesome. That is really powerful to hear, how, as you say, she has the wisdom to recognize that, because that is truly someone that cares about you, that's going to say, no, we're not there yet, but I can see that you need somebody there for you. Yeah, that's awesome. What are top 3 things you would suggest that people can start doing for building a strong mindset? I know that that's hard because it's dependent on the person and what's good for them, so it's hard to give like general suggestions. But if you had to say.
Yeah, I would say like they need to look at their life and like look at things that they need to work on. So if like you're not currently getting to the gym, getting to the gym is a great start.
Right.
You know, if you're someone who has a hard time waking up in the morning, you know, start waking up a little bit earlier. Maybe start with a half hour, you know, or a little bit more. You know, and it comes down to a lot of different things. So like some of the things I'm working on right now is I'm not a very social person. So I'm trying to expose myself to more social situations. Right. And a lot of that kind of comes from COVID. And I think a lot of people during COVID, they weren't socializing with people as much. Yeah. And my wife and I, we were in like a Christian group at the time. And that Christian group ended up being very toxic. Okay. Like they didn't want me and my wife to get married. Like it was like really weird. Yeah. And so like we ended up distancing ourselves from our friends at the time. And we just really weren't spending time with anyone. Yeah. And so then we moved out to California, and California is kind of a hard place to get to know people. So
it can be.
You know, now we're spending more time, you know, on our own, and then we notice like, oh, hey, like when we're trying to go be social with people, we're actually kind of stressed out.
Yeah, you're losing that. It's a muscle you have to strengthen. Yeah.
So then to fix that, it's okay, let's expose ourselves to more situations where we have to be social. Totally. Like even if like, you know, your initial thought is like, no, like force yourself to do it. Yeah. You know, and, you know, if someone like hates riding the bus in the morning, like a public bus, like just, you know, start riding a public bus. Yeah. You know.
Exposure therapy.
Yeah. So you have to expose yourself to more things. Like if you're having negative thoughts, you know, start changing your mindset of whatever that negative thought is. And I use the example of, you know, I'm stupid earlier. Like some people think like, oh, like I am not a very smart person. Right. You know, but they just need to change their mindset to what makes me smart. Yeah. Not what makes me stupid, what makes me smart. Yeah. And like every morning, every day, you have to drill that, you know, into your mind. Yeah. So yeah, again, more exposure to things that are going to make you stronger. Yeah. And then you can even get down to like very little things of, things that you don't want to do. So I like to take cold showers in the morning.
Yeah.
Not because I like cold showers.
No, of course not.
I hate cold showers. Every time I'm thinking about going into the cold shower, I'm like, I don't want to do this right now.
Yeah. Especially in the morning.
Right, especially in the morning. But what that does for my mindset is huge.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care about the health benefits that people say cold exposure does for you.
Yeah.
I care about what it does to my mind.
Totally.
Of like, all right, I'm forcing myself into a situation I don't want to be in right now.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's other things that I think lead to, like disciplines that I think lead to freedom overall that I think people should be doing. You know, I know this was kind of a long-winded answer to kind of get to all these things, but
it's good.
There's like tracking your finances, you know, doing your weekly schedule.
Yep.
You know, all my clients, like I try to have them do that because within those disciplines, you find a lot of freedom.
Totally.
You know,
I'm so big on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like if you're not tracking your finances, you don't know how much you have.
Right.
Then it leads to overspending and then debt and then, you know, and then that
stress.
Is stress and then that crashes down on your mindset.
Right. Yep.
You know, but if you always live within your means, you know, you don't get to that point.
Of course.
Same with your schedule. If like you don't know what your day has in store for you, and then all of a sudden someone throws a wrench in your day, it totally throws you off. But if you know exactly what's going to happen and where you can be flexible, someone throws a wrench in your day, it's fine. It's all good.
Totally.
You know, so those are two basic things I think everyone should be doing. But then also looking at what they're personally like struggling with and figuring out, okay, how can I give myself little exposures to improve that situation?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love the discipline equals freedom thing, and that's been a work in progress for myself, a learning work of progress.
Me too, yeah.
I know, when I have weeks where I'm not organized, I didn't meal prep, I didn't schedule, I didn't do all that, I'm so stressed. But as soon as I'm organizing, doing my laundry, putting things away, I have the best week ever, which this is one of those weeks also. It creates so much freedom because you know, like, okay, this will happen then, and if it doesn't, then I can work with it, you know, but at least it wasn't thrown in your face, like you're saying. And also I love words and language. So discipline and disciple are obviously rooted in the same, from the same root. And so I feel that being disciplined means being a disciple for your own dream or whatever your passions are, right? Are you being a disciple for your own passion?
I like that a lot. That's actually a really good like play on words. Disciple, discipline.
Disciple, discipline, and then, the camera may have gotten Aspen in here, which is your newest addition to your family. And also the BpFit family. We love having her here. So tell us a little bit about your goal with mindset shifts and how you're incorporating her in your business.
So I think I grew up with dogs. I know you did too. Dogs are like an amazing creature to have in your life.
Totally.
And they become a part of your family. But then like a lot of times like people see like a dog, you know, in an environment and they just, you know, they love it. It's very calming. Even the presence and like Aspen's still got some work. Like obviously she's like still anxious around people, but still people like look at her and like, oh, that's an adorable dog. And like, it's a very calming presence. So it makes the gym environment, I think, a little bit more accepting. You know, it's not like, oh, I'm going to this like cold gym, like all this metal equipment, banging weights. It's like, oh, and there's a dog.
It adds some softness. And it makes it more welcoming for people who might be intimidated.
But caveat, as long as they're well trained.
Of course.
The dogs need discipline too.
The dogs need discipline. Everybody needs discipline.
Everyone needs it. So, you know, like if a dog is going like wild and crazy and barking all the time, like then it adds chaos. But if they're calm and they're like, you know, greeting people and they're kind, and I think I've told you this before, my favorite gym I've ever been to, the owner had this like old like yellow lab that he would like bring, and like every time like people walked in the door, just got up from its mat and like was like, okay, you can pet me.
Yep.
You would pet it, and then it would go lay back down.
Yeah.
And it was like there was something about that just made the whole experience so much better.
Totally.
Like there was this dog there to love on you as soon as you walked in the door.
Yeah.
And as people, we don't do a really good job at showing people affection.
Yeah.
But dogs do a great job of it.
Totally. Yeah.
So I love having a dog in my life, and I love bringing her everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Because it's just fun for people.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. And take some of the seriousness out of it too.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, I've got to go in and hit these PRs. Oh, there's a dog. Like
Yeah.
reminds you where you are and what life is a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much it. Last question would be daily. You touched on it a little bit. Daily habits or routines that you are tried and true with that have really helped you.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to break down like their goals, and then their like things that they need to get done in a month, and then weekly things that they need to get done, and then daily things.
Okay.
So obviously, like weekly things. Like check your budget.
Yeah.
Do your schedule. Figure out like where's your week going to, and then daily check your schedule again. You don't need to check your budget every day, but check your schedule. Like okay, remind yourself what's going on.
Yeah.
And the tasks that you need to get done that day.
Yeah.
And then that's when you can start filling in other things. Like once you make those habits, then start making a habit of daily affirmations. Fill yourself with positivity.
Totally.
Because for every one negative thought you have, you need to have 10 positive thoughts to have a positive mindset.
Yeah.
I think that's the ratio.
Yeah.
But, don't quote me on that one. But that's relatively the idea of to have a negative mindset is as simple as 9 positive thoughts.
Amazing, yeah.
So you need that 10th positive thought to have a positive mindset.
Yeah.
So, you can easily switch yourself by in the morning, start filling yourself with positivity, daily affirmations. And
prayer.
Or prayer.
That's big for you.
Yeah, that's a very big thing.
Yeah.
Spending time with God.
Yeah.
For me is big, but for wherever you are in your life.
Yeah.
Fill yourself with that positivity.
Totally.
And then, start going after your day.
Yeah.
One step at a time,
Awesome.
And then I usually don't suggest people do cold showers and stuff like that until they got everything else in line.
That's very, very good advice, because I find, also speaking for myself, that a lot of people, when you're trying to build a new habit or do new things in general, you're going to try and do everything at once, and then you won't do any of it.
Right, exactly.
So make sure you can, even though it seems dumb, track the little things and give yourself accomplishment with that, and that will build confidence that you'll follow through on the other things.
And that's the same with someone who's trying to make a daily discipline of exercise.
Right.
Maybe it's not the gym, but maybe it's a walk.
Yeah. Totally. Something small.
Yeah. Build it walks into your life.
Yeah.
And then start building in your other stuff.
Yeah. Going back to SMART goals, it's the attainable.
Yeah.
The A in SMART goals.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it starts simple.
Awesome.
And then you just build on there, and that building gives you a stronger mindset.
Yeah.
So that you can slowly just build more and more and more. And by the time you look back, you're like, oh, I have all these great habits in my life.
Yeah.
And you can look at where you've come, and it's wow, this is so easy.
Yeah.
Before it was hard.
Right.
Now it's easy.
Yeah.
And you it's all just natural and flows a part of your day.
Right.
And then your mindset starts to become stronger, and then you don't crumble under as much stuff as you realize you used to.
Yeah. You have a foundation.
Yeah.
For your possibly crumbling house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then everything doesn't fall in around you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on today. If you guys are looking for a coach to work with for, what would you say, Olympic lifting or more powerlifting?
It's a lot of powerlifting. So I work with a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
And so it could be OCR, powerlifting.
Okay.
A lot of that, but right now I think I have more powerlifting clients than I do like any sport clients.
Okay.
But
So yeah, powerlifting, obstacle course training, mindset shifts, and general health and wellness. You can reach him at Devin Sharp Fitness on Instagram.
That's
right?
Forged Strength and
Oh,
Performance.
that's right. Forged Strength and Performance. We'll put a little link to it. And then he's also on our page, as well as, I don't know if you were starting a YouTube, right? No, not yet.
I have a
YouTube.
channel, but I haven't posted anything.
Okay.
I have some private videos,
But yeah, so reach out to him through Instagram if you want to learn more, and we will see you on the next podcast.